Good evening, everybody. Reed here. Today, we're going to have another very interesting conversation about Erika Kirk. The name of my podcast is Reed Matrix. Matrix, I'm talking about all the structures around you, all the cliques, all the organizations, all the businesses, all the boards, all the things around you that lock you into your socioeconomic group. In essence, these things around you have so much impact upon you, they can determine your fate. And for the most of us, they can actually unalive us. So it's very important for you to sort of understand what narcissism as a network is, because when you encounter that narcissist, you're not encountering one person, you're encountering a portal to an entire network. And let me tell you how serious this is. I'm not a Christian, but Jesus referred to that network as the flesh, right? And he had one rule that he described. He said, a camel will fit through an eye of a needle. A camel will fit through the eye of a needle before you survive the flesh. Meaning, there's no way, if you deal with unconscious people, if you get caught up into their networks, if you become surrounded by them, and I believe you only need two. And look at my video when I said Tupac was caught between two sociopaths, two psychopaths. And I think it's the same thing that applies to you in your life. When you are suffering the most, you need to look at the person right next to you. And if all of a sudden it's gotten to a point where you cannot control your interpretation of reality because no one else is listening to you, that's because they partner with someone else. And collectively, you're caught between two psychopaths. The odds, meaning you are in the flesh, the odds of you making it out of there is the same odds Tupac had of surviving, 0. It's the same odds of a camel fitting through the eye of a needle. If you were between two psychopaths, you're never going to survive that, right? And so I'm going to teach you a way to look at this. It's a theory called object relations theory. It's a type of psychology. It's a type of therapy. You know, like psychoanalysis is a type of therapy that's very powerful. And I think you should learn that. You know, cognitive behavior therapy is another type of therapy. You know, I think you can handle that. Look at that. You know, object relations therapy is another type of therapy, but the model is a very interesting model that you can take a look at. And I think it'll help simplify exactly what Erika is doing, right? And so there are models you can learn that will simplify everything Erika is doing. And most importantly, these models make her behavior seem so predictable. These things are so predictable that Jesus, who was the premier experts on narcissist, psychopath, and sociopath, gave you a rule that applies to them too. Meaning that these unconscious people, they live in delusional worlds that collectively refer to as the flesh. And as they begin to create their objects in these delusional worlds, these objects will surely come to an end. And the seeds you plant, what you reap, you shall sow. What seeds you plant, you're going to grow that type of plant. So if this movement, or if this organization that Erika Kirk took over through publicly executing her husband to take over his non-for-profit corporation, if that's what she's done, then the die is cast. That's the seed she planted. What's going to grow out of this is what eventually grows out of this: cataclysmic, thunderous, screaming, yelling, chaos. You reap what you sow. You sowed a public execution. What are you going to reap for this? I don't know. The damage may be 10 times as large. For example, If this if this delusional system that she's creating and this delusional world is accepted by the masses of the young people, then that means that our entire civilization is going collectively down a delusional system. And there's certain qualities that are predictable when people live in delusional systems, meaning they all fail. They're only setups to cause further emotional, psychological turmoil, but it's only at the end point when the person's focus so much on a delusion that's not really there. They put their time, energy, efforts into something that's not really there when they should have been back devoting their time, energy, effort to their reality and building their resources and their reality. And so the issues, the investments, and everything that's done in this fake delusional world going to always go to zero. Why? Because none of that stuff actually exists, right? And so if this leads to the election of a candidate based upon all these lies, then that may be the way to scale this trauma and disaster that's coming ahead. Because if the same people who carried out and planned this public execution can still override everyone's common sense and get back in office, I don't think we are ever going to be able to stop them. I do not think there's any incentive for them to take complete control over this country. Got it? Yeah. So let me just give you an idea of what object relations is, right? Let me go here and see. Okay. All right, let me see. Okay, I'm going to show you this experiment here.
When a laser emits beams of light particles called...
Okay, I'm going to show you this this animation here. Okay, this is called the slit lamp experiment. Okay, now let's say they took one particle light and shot the one particle light through this board here. They just kept shooting particles of lights. And as they kept randomly shooting the particles of lights, many of the particle lights that go past here should form on the screen, right? So it turns out when you're looking at the light, it becomes the particles, and now you only see two bands. But when you're not paying attention, it stays as electronic waves, and then you see the wave pattern. So that shows the dual nature of every basically atom. And we are built on top of those atoms, and everything around you is built on top of those atoms. So in order for you to understand object relations theory, so that you can understand, you really see through Erika's mask and understand her behavior, it's important that you understand the dual nature of matter, right? And so this is the slit lamp experiment. Let me go through this and see, okay?
At a screen with two slits, you'd expect to see two strips to correspond with the two slits. Instead, we see a pattern of light and dark bands. This suggests that light behaves like waves that pass through both slits simultaneously, interfering with each other to create the pattern on the second screen. However, when scientists used a measuring device to observe the slit that each photon passed through, the interference pattern disappeared and two strips appeared. The act of observing which slit it went through changed the behavior of the photons. No one knows why observing a particle causes its behavior to change. When a
Okay,
laser emits
so
beams of light particles,
look into this concept here, because that's the base. It's a very powerful concept, and you're going to have to really accept this as this is the reality that everything is based upon. And let me just tell you this. Okay, every imagine, let me give you an example what I'm talking about. In this experiment, when you're not paying attention to it, the pattern shows a wave pattern on the detector. So when you're not looking at it, it shows a wave pattern, like it's an energy pattern. But then the moment you pay attention to it, it becomes particles, and it shows the particle pattern. Let me just go back to it again so you can understand it, okay?
called photons at a screen with two slits, you'd expect to see two strips to correspond with the two slits. Instead, we see a pattern of light and dark bands. This suggests that light behaves like waves that pass through both slits simultaneously, interfering with each other to create the pattern on the second screen. However, when scientists used a measuring device to observe the slit that each photon passed through, the interference pattern disappeared and two strips appeared. The act of observing which slit it went through changed the behavior of the photons. No one knows why observing a particle causes its behavior to change.
Right. So what happens is that once you observe the energy field, then it condenses into matter. Okay. So everything has this dual nature to it. So every physical structure has an energy source underneath it, right? And it's the energy source that actually creates the physical source. So the physical object. So everything you see around us is actually pure energy, but it's only converted into matter when you give it your attention. So the world, you have a 1 pixel view through your iris. So you have a 2 pixel viewpoint on the screen that's infinitely large. And when you point those 2 pixels and give it your attention to the energy, it's only that pixel that becomes physical. But everything around you outside your awareness is still the energy. And when you pan your attention, you just pan the pixel through converting the energy to physical. So one of the reasons why you should always sit down and shut up is because the screen has an infinite number of pixels. You're only looking at the screen through 2 pixels. So that's not enough information you can ever have about a situation out there that you can respond to that won't end in disaster. Why? Because you're not collecting enough information about the environment. You only have a 1 pixel view, and you are under the delusion that when you turn your head or your attention away from the world, that it exists the way you believe it does, but it's not. You don't have a back of your head. You only have a front of your head. You have never seen the back of your head. This visor is on the front of your head. You understand? So this visor is going through converting the physical matter to energy, right? And so the biggest delusion you have, and everything that's made up of these particles have the same properties, including you, including the buildings. Everything in the universe has that same property. When you are not focusing on it, it is nothing but pure energy. It doesn't collapse into mass until you give it your attention. And this is the science and the physics that explains that property here. Why? Because everything in this universe, absolutely everything in this universe is an object. You cannot find one thing in this universe that doesn't have its individual separateness and its own properties from the other objects around us. So that's the first thing. In reality, you're just going to have to accept, find something that's not an object. And then you talk about, hey, emotions, or what about my memories? Hold on for a second. Your memories is physical data stored inside of your brain that you upload and create a virtual world that you don't relive, that you have an illusionary experience that you believe is the quote unquote mythical past that doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist, therefore memories don't exist. The only thing that exists is now. So when you upload that physical data to have this virtual experience that you refer to as a memory or visiting the past, this is just a routine that the software is having in the ego. And the reason why it's having that is because it has to upload what? Physical objects. So yes, it's very hard for you to comprehend that the physical objects also extend down to the molecular level. And that's what I do as a psychiatrist. We're talking about the networks in the brain that controls your reality and controls your experiences. And why? I use medications to shape your reality, to shape your experiences, to stabilize your experiences. That's why, so you can have a better life. And how am I doing it? I'm manipulating objects, but they're just at the molecular level. That's it. Same objects, but at the same molecular level. That's all I'm doing as a psychiatrist. And my targets are the objects, including memories and things like that, that can be manipulated, that can be created and destroyed and distorted. But I'm doing as a psychiatrist, I am manipulating objects, and I'm using molecular tools known as medications in order to reach those objects. So we purify the medications, and then we put the medications in some, they go and they hit their target, and then they turn things on, and we're trying to turn genes on, gene expression on, and we're trying to turn it off. So here, Erika Kirk and object relations, if you understood object relations, then, and you understand that there's no way Erika going to be able to get away from this. And there's nothing good that's going to come after this. And so let me just tell you what happened here, right? Now you have your reality. Now your reality is the only true thing that exists. If you let some sick, perverted, narcissist, psychopath, or sociopath make you believe something in their reality, then you've left your reality and you've entered a delusional world, or entered an illusion, or you're having an illusion, or you've entered a rabbit hole, or you drank the Kool-Aid, or you joined the clique, or you down with the crew, or you working for the man, or you just became a slave. All those things, all of those things happen. And it's up to the narc when you leave your reality. Now here, she wants us to believe that she did not perform a public execution. The reality is that you did a public execution. And now she's trying to make us believe that something is a delusion. Now, if you enter a delusional world or delusional system, nothing that you do in that system would ever prosper long term, because it's a delusion. And you cannot contain real profits or real stability inside of delusions. You can only do that in your reality. But if they onboard everybody and detour them into this reality, this new reality system where the people who did this are acting like they didn't, and they're taking over power from everyone, then that's simply going to magnify the duality. You reap what you sow. You mean as a nation, we're going to sow this lie? And if they get into power, do you understand what we're going to reap? What happened to Charlie Kirk will happen to all of us, because that's the only way to handle a situation like this. And that's the only pathway that these types of objects that they've just launched will create. So remember, it's a delusional system. So remember, everyone in that delusional system will have to face the consequences of not being connected and making decisions with reality. So people entering that delusional system will be the ones that created the cataclysmic change. I mean, the cataclysmic trauma, the cataclysmic whatever we're about to go through. If these people get into office, it's going to get bad on all of us. It's going to get bad on all of us. Why? The die is cast. You reap what you sow. This is what we're sowing, a public execution from our overlords. And if they get back in power, do you understand what they're going to do to us? Do you understand what they can do to us? Now, understand this. And this is what I'm saying. Look at object relations and how this is just an awful thing. You know, you look at Trump and his behavior towards the victims of sexual abuse and trafficking. And these are young girls, 14, 15. And it must be awful, absolutely awful for one of them children to have to now be under the control of a brutal trafficker and look up and see the fucking president doing everything he can to protect the people who are harming them. This is where we're at as a nation. As a nation, our leaders prefer to protect each other over 14-year-old girls. And that means in every relationship now that 14-year-old girls having right now in an abusive relationship with a sex trafficker, they now understand that that trafficker's president will do everything they can to protect them and leave the 14-year-old girls in the shadow. Man, it's cold. It's cold. That's cold. And now, wifey publicly execute her husband. And then she endorses the presidential candidate. And lo and behold, we elect him in office. You know how much power they're going to have? Because they're going to rewrite our entire story. And everything that we believe to be the truth, they will say is a delusion. And they're going to reprogram our children. They are going to be the main ones who teach our children. And they're going to teach them that we were the ones with the problem. Right? If you ever dealt with narcissists and their abuse of children, you understand that narcissists always groom children, and they're always the main ones trying to be, this is my favorite. This is my, oh, we have a special bond. Oh, we are soulmates to the child. I understand you more than everybody else, right? But they basically grooming the child. And so now these psychopaths executed her husband in front of your children and now taking over grooming your children to not believe what you believe, which is what you actually saw, but to believe what they want them to believe. So that means that they're going to tell your children are going to think that you're delusional. They're going to think you're delusional. And they're coming for your kids. So an object relations theory is Erika's cast this die, and if she's successful at this, man, it's going to have a devastating impact on a lot of us. Man, so I think that I don't know what to do. It's time to run. It's time to hide. It's time to hide your husbands, hide your wives, hide your children. Why? Hey. Let me see. So I got this message. Hi, off topic. Okay, so off topic. Exactly 1 year ahead of 9/11, Trump hater Ben Folds has his concert at, I don't understand what they did. I wasn't following it too much, so I don't understand what that is. So anybody out there? So I hope this is, and now, And so, how does this connect with what Jesus was saying? Okay, so Jesus was making a commentary on living in delusional systems and being surrounded by unconscious people, which he referred to as the flesh. He says, no way you're going to survive out there. There's no way that's going to survive. And so, in looking at where this intersection, where our nation is in the middle of World War III, you see this relentless blitz towards this 5D warfare and all of this non-kinetic war in an effort to win your ego and then to program your children. And if they program your children, that means that your children are going to live into a different reality than you, meaning they're going to automatically their opinions, their perspective, their narrative, their mantras, the phrases are going to effectively alienate you from your children. So TPUSA, Israel, and whoever is officials in the governments or whatever policies, their main goal is through this process to shape your children's ego and to successfully alienate you from your child, because you're going to be in your reality, but then they're going to groom your child to believe that this is this illusionary world that they're building that is real. Now, go through. I did a video on Erika Kirk and the manifold world, and as you can see, this public campaign to reframe what we saw them do is filled with fanfare, glitz, the starlights, and they bring in the scum, Nicki Minaj. I mean, so they bring in this class of woman to put in front to represent all Black women. And if these young Black girls fall into this delusional system that Nicki Minaj is sending them into, I don't think it's going to be too much for the population. And my concern is that if young Black women begin to accept this narrative that they're pushing, already being in such a vulnerable economic state, such a vulnerable state with being isolated, healthcare, no access to healthcare, failing, chronic medical problems. There's enough going on living in the current delusional systems that started 40 years ago when the strong Black woman movement is now 80, some on my side on the south side of Chicago, like 80% of the families are single mother headholds. So I don't think the strong Black woman movement actually did them any good. I think it should have been, hey, let's keep my family together movement, because I would be stronger with my family. So the expansion of the ego and the woman being the head of the household and I'm the strong Black woman, that strategy leads to isolation. You can't do it by yourself because everybody's working together as a team. So the new strategy should probably be, hey, let me focus on my family and try to get everyone, including my boys, integrated into this economy so that we can all start surviving. I think that's probably a good mindset for African American women, but I don't think that they should accept this. If they accept this, then they're going to accept the duality and the problems associated with living in yet another delusional system. And this is going to be cataclysmic. Why? Because it began with a public execution. The strong Black woman movement began with an effort to sort of make a improvement in economic status and education and housing and things like that. That's how it started, right? And this one started with a public execution. So some of these movements and some of these ideas and some of these concepts, you don't want to be involved with at all, right? Because they're too toxic, right? You don't want to be involved at all. So I hope that is helpful. I hope that is helpful for you. Now, feel free, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share Um, um, this series on narcissism as a network, I think it's a very valuable series for you to understand. And go back and look at my video on gang stalking and look at Charlie Kirk's case in the lands of gang stalking, meaning wifey ends on it, is in on it. Wifey, Mikey's acting different. The Griff guy was with his brother, was the guy who arrested the guy who witnessed, all these things. All these things, it seemed like these people were connected with each other, definitely connected with each other behind the background, because they were in constant communication with each other during the execution. So the wifey and Mikey were, and there's another characteristic about these narcs. They be talking to your friends behind your back, and everybody who would listen, they would have a private conversation behind your back. And they would never let you, that other narc would never let you know. I've always said this to like narcissistic parents. They always damage their children to make their children vulnerable to other narcissists. And when the narcissist comes around, they welcome the narcissist, but shoo away anyone that would be helpful for you. That's that same steering process. Why you hear women in the dating scene always running into the most horrible experiences. Well, you should look at your mother and you should look at the women around you. Why? Because anybody who comes that you're compatible with, or anyone that will benefit you, they scare off before you even see them. And there's a saying amongst men: when you see that woman, who out there with her, there's always you get them two together, and then look, remember, there's always like a nice looking woman with a less attractive looking woman, right there. And it seems like they pair up because they like need each other. The nice looking woman needs to enhance her appearance by being next to an unattractive woman. And then the unattractive woman needs some attention by being in close proximity to an attractive woman, because otherwise nobody's going to look at her, right? Right. These are like the dynamics, right? But what they don't know is the unattractive woman, while she's with the attractive woman, is scaring off all of her prospects before they even get to them. That's the hidden thing in these relationships. I've known in a relationship with some of these women and things like that. It's the best friend that keeping you single. And it's a dangerous game, because that reproductive age is so slow. Is a time reproductive age. There's the gap for fertility, and if you think that woman if you can't find a partner when all these people are single, or you keep running into the same type of abuser, then you are surrounded by people, and they are filtering the people into your life. Yep, you better watch that. Hey. So, read it. So look what Jesus said. There's no way that we're going to survive this. If we accept what Erika Kirk did and elect a president on this, there's no way we're going to survive as a nation, survive that delusion. It's going to be a cataclysmic change at the end, because that's the way it works. Nothing. A camel will fit through the eyes of the evil, through a needle, before us as a nation make it through this, if we were to accept what they're doing and allow them to dominate over us. It's a pleasure. Remember, narcissism in the network, guys. Read out. Take care, guys. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And if you are being targeted by these sick people, look at the core of my videos, because I show everything about these sick people. And as a psychiatrist, I'm used to treating these people. I'm used to listening to their victims. These are very brutal and primitive people. And once you understand how to recognize them, and I'm teaching you, as soon as they open up their mouth and you hear that manifold world that they created, that's the first word buzzer. And then you have to step back, because that person is trying to harm you. And it's best you acknowledge that up front. Hey, what are you doing? Are you trying to harm me with that manifold type speech you're describing? So look through my videos and then hopefully save yourself. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Take care, guys. Ciao.